very interesting article about how Joseph Smith Sr. just coincidentally happened to be in jail at the same time of the alleged assassin of William Morgan, and they talked with each other, and it's my belief that Joseph Smith Sr. even then was acting as a spy for the United States government against the Southern Democratic Masons. Welcome to my channel, where we explore alternative histories and mysteries of the Joseph Smith and Brigham Young Mormonism. So if you like it, please subscribe and do a thumbs up. So what are the chances that Joseph Smith Book of Mormon that condemns secret combinations, secret societies, secret fraternities, much like the mafia is a secret society, what is the likelihood that the Joseph Smith Mormon Church would invent or create a ritual based on Masonic symbols and handshakes and 5 points of fellowship? Well, here we have some nice Mormon temple workers. See their baker's hats, their leafy aprons, even their shoes. Yes, the Mormons are bakers out of the Middle Ages, but let's take a look. Oh no, these aren't Mormon temple workers. These are Masons, a certain sect of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry, doing their Masonic hand signs and gestures. Here we've got them slitting their throat. Here we've got them on the third guy. He's slitting his breast. That's right. What are the chances that Joseph Smith would create or condone a ritual based on what the Book of Mormon condemns? Secret societies. Well, highly unlikely, especially in light of Joseph Smith's stated political party, which started out as the Anti-Mason Party with helping the widow of William Morgan, who was murdered supposedly by Masons because he was going to reveal their traitorous hearts, their loyalty to the British invaders of 1812. Yes, the Masons swore loyalty oaths to the British crown in their taverns and their basements and their secret societies. Well, what are the chances that Joseph Smith Jr. and Joseph Smith Sr. would support these secret societies against the United States? Highly unlikely, since we know that William Morgan's widow became a Mormon and went with the Mormons into the Ohio Valley of Kirtland. They despised the Masons. And also, we also know that Joseph Smith was a stated political Joseph Smith supported the Whig Party. He was a Henry Clay Whig. That's what he told Josiah Quincy and Charles Adams 6 weeks before he died, that he was a Whig. And that got him into trouble in Nauvoo when supposedly Missouri threatened to extradite him. Joseph Smith threw his political support over to his brother Hiram, who then said, "Oh yeah, I remember, we support the Southern Democrats, who are slaveholders." But Joseph Smith had to bow out of politics, and in fact, he resigned the office of prophet in order to throw the political support over to the Democrats because he feared extradition and eventual murder by the Missourians. So why would Joseph Smith invent secret societies based on Masonic symbols and orders? Well, One logical reason, consistent with Joseph Smith's stated political beliefs, is that he was an infiltrator and he was spying on this secret society, just like William Morgan was a spy on these traitors to the United States. But then also Brigham Young was supported the Masons, and I believe turned the Masonic Party of Albert Pike, based on their god Lucifer, they turned a, a business, a putative business secret combination into a religion. And that's what Mormon is, and by Brigham Young is. It's simply Masonic turned it, Masonry turned into a religion. So if you're in all these secret temple structures doing these secret symbols, it is not a Joseph Smith ritual. Even down to the funny shoes. Oh my goodness. So here, let's look at the 5 points of fellowship that most Mormons do. Between the veil, they got rid of that because the women were upset because men were copying fields while they were hugging the women in the veil. But let's go back to the main issue. Whether or not Joseph Smith, who is an anti-Mason Whig candidate, would ever create a religion in which there was a temple ritual based on obvious Masonic symbols, when the entire church was created and the Book of Mormon pronounces the condemnation of all secret societies, especially societies that are trying to overthrow the existing government or the United States. Okay, let's revisit it by an article that I will read you now about William Morgan, Joseph Smith, and Joseph Smith Sr., who is an infiltrator in New York with the anti-Mason William Morgan party, and he supposedly was in jail, but was spying on the murderer. So just to refresh your memory, William Morgan was a Mason who felt slighted by the Batavian, New York Masonic Lodge, threatened to publish a book revealing all their secrets, He supposedly was kidnapped one night, taken up to Niagara Falls, thrown over the falls. They never recovered his body. They did recover somebody's body, and they believed it was William Morgan, but it turned out to be a petty criminal. So William Morgan's body was never recovered, but an entire political movement rose up in support of William Morgan and tried to overthrow the Masons and the Masonic lodges that had an iron grip over all these communities and were working in their inner chambers to overthrow the United States. They were Southern Democrats. Albert Pike, head of the Masonic Party in the United States, the Grand Poobah, he, in his Morals and Dogma book, outlines all the Masonic principles, but Lucifer is their god. This is who they are worshiping in the Masonry party. So the question is whether or not this temple ceremony that I believe was invented by Brigham Young, and it's a fusion of Cochranism, Garden of Eden tableaus, passion plays with the Masonic symbols, and the Solomonic magic of the Babylonian priesthoods, the Zoroastrian priesthoods, the Mystery Babylon. Anyway, this is the Brigham Young party that went to Utah, and they invented this creepy temple ceremony. It's partially a military rite as well as a sex rite. You've got Garden of Eden, sexual Eden, serpent. issues in which, if you study the Cochranites, they were into wife swapping, and their rituals were based on sexual, magical rituals that took place late at night, versus the military part, which is the Masonic symbols, in which you make handshakes and hand symbols to identify either fellow travelers or loyalists or whatever. Those are the symbols that have been used since Rome to identify infiltrators or traitors or people that are on your side in the military. Simple. That's the temple ceremony. So would Joseph Smith have created this temple ceremony based on a political party he despised? Well, only if he was trying to infiltrate the Masons, just like his father did in Batavia, New York, and just as they had done when they supported the anti-Mason party, and just as they did when they supported all the Whigs in their anti-slavery sentiments and trying to get rid of the Southern Democrats. Didn't quite work, did it? Civil War was the bloodiest war in U.S. history, but that is my theory and my hypothesis. So let's listen to this article, very interesting article about how Joseph Smith Sr. just coincidentally happened to be in jail at the same time of the alleged assassin of William Morgan, and they talked with each other, and it's my belief that Joseph Smith Sr. even then was acting as a spy for the United States government against the Southern Democratic Masons. Alleged murderer of William Morgan. All these destinies intersect, but I do believe that Joseph Smith Sr. and Joseph Smith Jr. were Union loyalists. They fought on the side of the Union. They were anti-slavery. That's because they were interracial. They were interracial Jewish and they were interracial Native American. They despised slavery. And Solomon Mack, Lucy Mack's father, had been enslaved, in euphemistically called an indentured servant, but had been enslaved to a very cruel Quaker slave master. So Joseph Smith would have never created a temple ceremony based on Masonic rituals unless he was an outright infiltrator, and that's discussed in a number of my other videos. But let's proceed with the article talking about this very interesting episode of Joseph Smith Sr. being incarcerated and spying on the supposed murderer of William Morgan. William Morgan, whose wife eventually became a Mormon, and also many contemporary historians believe that William Morgan escaped with his life and also assumed a new identity as a Mormon with the Mormon Church and went to Kirtland, Ohio with the Mormon movement that was led by Joseph Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack, the matriarch and patriarch of the Joseph Smith Church. Joseph Smith Jr. only became the patriarch when all older people were deceased.
In the fall of 1830, shortly after the church had been organized, Joseph Smith Sr. was arrested and placed in Canandaigua jail for being unable to meet a debt owed to an elderly Quaker who had demanded payment. While Smith was an imprisoned debtor for 30 days, he shared part of his time with a man committed for murder. That man turned out to be Eli Bruce, who was arrested in connection with the abduction and, likely, murder of anti-Mason William Morgan, reportedly committed by Masons. In Eli's journal, he recorded the following. November 5th, not so much pain in my head as yesterday. had a long talk with the father of the Smith, Joseph Smith, who, according to the old man's account, is the particular favorite of heaven. To him heaven has vouchsafed to reveal its mysteries, he is the herald of the latter-day glory. The old man avers that he is commissioned by God to baptize and preach this new doctrine. He says that our Bible is much abridged and deficient, that soon the divine will is to be known to all, as written in the New Bible, or Book of Mormon. If you're not familiar with William Morgan, he disappeared after threatening to publish an exposé revealing secrets of Masonry in 1826. This was widely believed to have been a Masonic plot to murder Morgan before he could publish, and ignited a large anti-Masonic movement, a sentiment that some feel shows up strongly throughout the Book of Mormon. His exposé was eventually published after his death. Interestingly, Morgan was married to Lucinda Pendleton, who remarried after Morgan's disappearance. Her and her new husband joined the LDS Church in 1834, and it is believed that Lucinda became one of Joseph's polyandrous wives. Everything comes full circle, and now you know the rest of the story, or at least part of it. There's so much to dive into in Mormonism. Source for Joseph Smith Sr. being in jail.